It is time, y'all. It is finally time to air our grievances. Our indie comic grievances, that is.
The airing of grievances. I got a lot of problems with you people. Now, you're gonna hear about it.
A while ago, I asked my followers about their biggest indie comic gripes, and today we're gonna dive into them. Be sure to leave your own indie grievances in the comments, and no matter what, make sure you stick around to the end of the video while I'll be making an indie comic announcement of my own. But for now, let's have us a conversation about indie comic books.
Hey yo, what the fuck?
Starting with KeenestFox 6376, whose biggest gripes are first issues who end on cliffhangers. Now this is an interesting one because there's obviously a few different ways that you could end your first issue. However, I still think that most people prefer for there to be like a firm beginning, middle, and end to what you're doing, even within your issues, especially as it pertains to not just indie comics, but brand new indie comics. Like if you're just reading a book for the first time and it's the first issue, that story really hasn't earned your loyal readership yet. It would be good to say, here's what we have, this is where it ends, and if this is all you want, then you have a complete story. That way the reader can have a full experience right there. But for the ones who do want to keep reading, they're enticed to keep reading by having things that will be carried over into the next issue. It's a fine dance to play because if you make it too specific to your issue, then it's not gonna really give people a reason to keep reading. And that also doesn't say that you can't have something that's more open-ended, it's just a little riskier in my opinion. Moving on to the next comment, we have our man Frost Comics, who actually was gonna talk about how he hates when books are late, but then acknowledges how you can have an understandable reason for why books are late, such as when Ben Dunn had a UPS truck lose 20 copies of Tomorrow Girl Volume 1. Sheesh. That's a oopsie of gigantic proportions that unfortunately you can't do anything about. I've also encountered several creators who've run into real world hangups that they just can't get around. Everything from health issues to pre-existing legal drama, even natural disasters, like sometimes it's just unavoidable. But then he goes on to his real problem, which is something I think we can all agree on, which is lack of communication, which can turn a late book from an annoying but understandable issue to a genuinely angering grievance.
I got a lot of problems with you people.
Regardless of how valid a reason is, if you can't even tell me that the book's gonna be late, that's when I lose motivation to even care when I get the book, as well as respect for the people who actually made it. Moving on down to Ronin Ninja Star, he brings up the tried and true "we're not woke" routine from more conservative creators. Not all, but most in his opinion. And I feel like I've talked about that one on this channel ad nauseum. First of all, it must be stated that you cannot and should not rely on simply not being the other guys. If the only selling point you have is you're not what the enemy is, first of all, how do you know that they're my enemy? Just because they're your enemy doesn't mean they're mine. But even if we both can't stand them, that doesn't guarantee that your product's gonna be any good. Something can be not woke and trash. Something can be not woke and boring. Something can be not woke and written terribly. Just because it's not pushing far left politics or performative activism down my throat doesn't make it a good story or a good product. You need more. What did Bruce Lee say? We need emotional content. At best, you have rhetoric. At worst,
you have nothing.
And we're gonna wrap things up with my man Hero Darky Dark, who lists doing a horrible job at making their premise not seem super generic. Now I feel like this whole video is just a best hit selections of things not to do if these are your first comic books. So stop having everything end on a cliffhanger, actually communicate to your audience, stop selling your books on the fact that you're quote unquote not woke, and actually sell your book in a way that makes it stand out. I know in particular, Mark, Tim, and Doug from Iconic Comics have made this point and driven it into the ground, but it cannot be stated enough. The whole pitch of it's this plus this, or it's basically this. I know a lot of people do that because it's an easy and quick tactic to let people know how your story is gonna feel, the themes, or similar things that they can expect. The problem is, I don't think it actually does that beyond a surface level. At best, you're telling people what they can expect and they're always going to hold you to those expectations. So if you say, my thing is Ninja Turtles plus Ninja Gaiden, and they read your book and it's anything other than that, even if it's good, they're probably not going to stick with it because you've set their expectations up to a high standard that you can't possibly meet. And then when it doesn't deliver, they're going to be disappointed. And even if they do read it and like it, and it is exactly what you say it is, you have fused your property, your brand new IP, with these existing popular IPs. And that is something that cannot be easily undone. People are going to do that enough on their own. If they read your stuff and they're like, wow, it reminds me of this thing or this thing. Okay, then that's just people making observations. But if you do it for them, it's the same issue. You're putting that standard on them, and even if it is met, they're gonna look at your stuff and go, oh yeah, it's like this thing, but different. I've actually worked with other writers in offering them creative consultation, and this is one of the things that I try to break people of as fast as possible. If I ask you about your story and you just go, it's like this, but with this, or if I ask you about your main character and you go, well, they're this person, that person, a little bit of that person, nope, we're not moving forward until you can actually tell me about this character. I don't care if it takes a whole week, okay? You need to be able to break down and sell your story for what it is. You want to stand out and not blend in. And you can't do that if your only marketing tactic is to name drop existing IPs, characters, etc., etc., etc. I would challenge people to eventually work up to not even needing it. Trust me, it is going to save you in the long run. You are saving yourself. You are saving your property. Listen to me now, thank me later. And thank Hero Darky Dark for leaving that comment. Thank you to everyone who commented, because it really was, you might as well just call this Now That's What I Call Bullshit Indie Comics Edition, okay? As someone who's been in the indie comic scene for over 3 years now, I feel like we need to have these moments amongst each other where we actually air our grievances. It's always good to talk about this type of stuff. And hopefully when I launch the Kickstarter for the Bond of the Blade issue #1, I'll avoid all these points. That's right, y'all. It is finally time. The first official Bond of the Blade release is on the horizon. 40 pages of full color shonen style martial arts action coming at you. That will include digital and physical, as well as a host of rewards that I will be announcing at a later date. So if that interests you and you would like to see the first official release of Bond of the Blade, where 3 martial artists empowered by their guardian angel must balance their urban war against a demonic mega gang and their everyday lives, help me make that a reality. Head on down to the description, click that link, and get notified on launch for Bond of the Blade issue #1. And that's gonna be all for me today. Thank you for watching, thank you for listening. I'm Animaine, and I'll talk to y'all later. Deuces.